Okay, this is a note to my future self of how I did this particular visualization. And the source is available up in SunnyWiz Harvest to Gephi is where I've stuck it. As of right now, we're at 43FFE54. So, quick run over the code. If you go into Harvest and you export detail, you get an email with a link to a thing to download. You get this. This is like 94,000 records covering like 10 years or so off the company I work at. And I currently have the setup so that it scrambles up stuff so that you all don't see the company's internal details. I tried including projects, but that just made it too complicated. Effectively, what I do is I am screening out all of the internal stuff, so that's taking out vacation time and travel time and holidays. That really messes with the graph. And so taking out clients, taking out projects which we're ignoring, taking out the people, uh, creating a bunch of nodes, then going through and getting a bunch of per time frame, who worked on what projects, information with some, all of these have start and end dates, because what we're going to create in Gephi is called a dynamic graph. It's got a timeline associated with it that'll scroll through. And then I write everything out to these two files, harvest nodes and harvest edges. Let me go ahead and run that. Alright, that's done. Let's take a look at the output files. Alright, so here's the scrambled versions of the names of the various things. This includes both clients as well as people. And this is the who worked for whom for what time frame. And I'm doing undirected for everything. And there's some weighting information as well. So now let's go over to Gephi, which is where all the really hard stuff is. Alright, I could just load them from here, but I'll go through the whole actual, like how I would have had to do it the first time. Forget which one I used actually. Let's just try that. And I happen to be in the right directory already. Start with the nodes. So here it is. It's kind of figured out, hey, this looks like a nodes table. And what only thing they really need for nodes is a ID and a label. And I've added all these other things. That looks correct. So I've tried it with timestamps. Timestamps doesn't work so well for me, so I'm going to switch to intervals. And you'll notice down here this timestamp set switches back over to a string. To existing workplace. Okay, it maps a bunch of these guys out. Let's go ahead and get this looking a little better. So I'm going to do color is going to be partitioned by the attribute noun, and by doing that the black color text labels stand out better. And then the size is going to be ranked by the attribute size. And maybe I'm not going to do that. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and make all of them 20. Reason is that this is the public facing version, so I really don't want you to know which clients were bigger than the other clients. Okay. And right now, if I try to do a layout, it's not going to work very well because I don't have any edges that have been brought in yet. Alright, so let's go over and bring in edges, which is just another file. choose a merge strategy. Edge merge strategies don't merge. This is because one person worked with a client for more than one time period. So we don't want it to get rid of all of that detail for us. Very important, append to existing workplace. And it should put all the lines. Alright, so now we don't have a timeline selected. So this is all work that has happened at any point in time. So if I try to do some kind of graph, it just looks kind of crazy. And if we go with, keep that running, adjust sizes, it's not particularly useful. Although we can see that some people were, not tied to a lot of other things, and some clients were maybe not tied to a lot of other things. But that's fine. So now let's make this an animated graph over time. So in order to do that, we go over to Data Laboratory and we do some conversion. So on the nodes side, I'm going to merge columns. Parse dates in this format. I know my data definitely have a start and end time for everything, so that creates this very specific interval saying that this particular node was only active during this time, and these are Unix timestamps. That's how you know it worked. And then let's add in for edges the same thing. And do something a little bit more interesting. So a couple of things I'm going to configure in here. I'm going to set the time format. That takes a little while to get into effect. The place settings. At first I was doing things like 1000, 1%, and I realized that I can just make this move forward really slowly, giving the graph time to stabilize as new data comes in and stuff. And this works out just fine. Okay, so let's bring this time frame all the way down. I'm going to start out the beginnings when the company was just getting started, and there's just a few things going on. Now I'm going to run this force atlas again, and that's not particularly readable, so there's a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to increase the repulsion strength to 2000. Let's leave this running. There we are. That's a little bit more readable. I can probably zoom in a little bit on this. There. The other thing is this stabilize function. See how things are jumping around a little bit? I can move this up. That's better. And gravity is, it has to do with if something is not connected to this, how far away is it going to go? And from experience, I know that I want it to be somewhere around 80. A bit too far off screen. This attraction distribution thing is whether or not if somebody has a higher weight to something, then does it attract them closer. So I've decided to do that. And adjust by sizes is whether or not the size of the node matters, and I've chosen not to apply sizes, so that actually probably shouldn't matter other than it's got some. Oh, adjust by sizes, that's right. It's because if you don't do this, it is possible for one node to completely overlap inside another node. See how these two guys are like overlapping each other? This keeps all the stuff out and the labels, readable. The other thing I'm going to do here is, okay, let's drag this over to some place that's a little bit more interesting. See how slowly everything's moving around? That's because I have a pretty high stabilize function right now. Speed that up, slow it down. Okay, so I don't like how this is. I'm going to change the thickness so that thick nodes are actually thick. That probably works. By the way, that SG down there, that's me. Okay, this looks good. And you notice this is going really slowly. So the trick is I record it and then I speed it up later because my computer is just not fast enough to handle this. Now I could run this faster if I did not have a good such a high stabilization function, but then things get a little bit jiggly. Here it is. So right now I've got this particular project with 3 people working on it really hard. I haven't joined the company yet, and this silly names for all y'all, but I know who these people are. So this is like a trip down nostalgia lane for me. There I am. That's me. Uh, I'm not gonna do the whole thing here. This is how I created that animation. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and let it record, and then I'll sped up or doctored version. Oh, something I should note. By running the algorithm with all the nodes visible, that caused everything to like run out to over here somewhere. So when something new shows up, it kind of gets dragged in to the center, which I think is a pretty cool effect. The other way you could do this is you could run is a different algorithm called random layout. It'll just like cluster everything in the center. That way things will just pop into being right in the middle and not kind of flying from the outside.